And we are back one more time for yet another episode of the Horror Guys.
Hello, everybody. I'm Kevin.
I'm Brian.
And we're going to talk about some horror movies.
Believe it or not.
Science fiction-y monsters and puppets and werewolves and serial slashers. We got it all this week.
We don't have any ants this week.
We don't have any ants this week. If you look close, I bet there's some ants in one of these movies at least. But
Probably.
No, this is not the focus on ants this week.
Whew.
Yeah.
You know, those ant movies were just fine to watch, but they were really boring to talk about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. There were ants, and they got people. Yeah.
All right, well, this week we've got a slightly larger variety of things than just that.
Uh-huh.
They're all older movies, though, so yeah, it's Classics Week.
Uh-huh.
Classic Sequels Week.
I don't know about classics, but
Well,
they're sequels.
They've all got numbers.
Yes.
What do we got?
We got Godzilla Raids Again, which is technically the second Godzilla movie, although
Yes.
they don't call it that. That's from 1955. And then we've got The Howling V, The Rebirth.
Ooh.
And Puppet Master 4, The Demon, which was also kind of a rebirth. And crossover horror battle, Jason, Friday versus Jason. Freddy versus Jason, which was 2003.
I've done battles with Fridays before, but never
Yeah.
Freddy's.
And then we got a couple bonus ones. We got Hostel Part 3, which was 2011. And Eli Roth didn't want to be part of that. He believes that 2 is the limit on a franchise. He didn't, and so somebody else handled. And it's not as good.
It's not
as
good.
shows. Yeah. And a classic Japanese 1964's Onibaba,
Oh, yeah.
a slice of life in pre-industrial Japan.
I hope that's not a normal
The
slice
long
of
ago.
life.
The long ago. Yeah. It's weird and creepy.
You may have seen clips of the black and white guy wearing the demon Japanese mask.
Mm-hmm. Classic image there.
And that's pretty much the movie.
And tall grass. Lots of tall grass.
So we're going to talk about the others here today. If you want to hear about Hostel Part 3 and Onibaba, go over to horrorbulletin.com and sign up for our free weekly email list where you get the full text of all our reviews, all the commentary, links to watch the trailers, and any news and updates that might come along.
But there's a fee for that, right?
No.
What? It's free?
Not yet.
Just for signing up?
Yeah, we've been doing that for a couple of years now, and it is still free.
What a deal.
I don't know, maybe 100 issues at this point? I don't know.
Lots.
256 on the podcast, but the newsletter's not quite that old.
Uh-huh.
Or if you like your reading just a little more self-contained, we have books.
Oh, I love books.
The Horror Guy's Guide to the Horror Films of Boris Karloff came out last week.
I've heard it's really good.
I've heard it's actually of the Horror Guys, I think it's my favorite.
Mm-hmm.
It goes into a lot more detail than most of them. It's got a lot of stuff in there.
Yeah, it's a good one.
But if all Boris isn't your favorite guy, we've got books on Vincent Price, Peter Cushing, Roger Corman, a lot of guys.
All the Scream Kings.
The Scream Kings.
You need to
yes.
do one on a Scream Queen.
There are a few.
There are.
They're not quite as noteworthy as the guys.
Yeah. It's a guy's world, unfortunately.
It was in the 40s and 50s
especially
for sure.
the older classic stuff, more so. Yeah.
I bet I could do one of the Scream Queens at some point for the
I bet.
40s and 50s. Maybe not just
Yeah.
one person, but talk about all of them.
They're out there.
Yeah, they are. Well, first up here today,
Godzilla Raids Again from 1955, which was also known as Gigantus the Fire Monster.
yes, at no point in the movie do they actually call this big creature Godzilla, but it is.
It is, yeah. And I'm going to tell you, let you say who it's directed by and who's in it.
Oh, you and those foreign names.
Yes.
Directed by Motoyoshi Oda and Ishiro Honda. Written by Takeo Murata, Shigeaki Hadaka, Shigeru Kayama, Ib Melchior, and Ed Watson. Boy, those last two sound a little funny, don't they?
They do.
Stars Hiroshi Koizumi, Setsuko Wakayama, Minoru Chiaki, and Takashi Shimura. Hour and 18 minutes. Trailer on YouTube. I'm not sure that might actually be the whole movie on YouTube. I don't remember now.
I think the whole thing is on YouTube.
I don't remember where we saw that.
There. Yeah.
Well, spoiler free, what happens?
Well, another Godzilla is back again to cause mayhem in Japan. Because he was killed in the first one, so I think this one really is another Godzilla. or Gigantus. And this time around, he's here to fight another giant monster, which is the first time he does. The first time in a long string of fighting other creatures.
Yeah, the first movie was,
Just
Godzilla
him.
versus Tokyo.
Yeah.
Now they're throwing
Godzilla.
in more.
And Tokyo is, well, not Tokyo, but Japan is the collateral damage.
Yeah.
Lots of collateral damage in this. It's interesting to see it as part of the progression of films in the series, but many parts of it are not very gripping. And it really hasn't held up very well over time.
We were surprised at how good the first one was.
Yeah.
It was well-paced and still interesting, 70-some years later. It was good.
This one, not
This
as
one,
much.
yeah.
I wasn't nearly as entertained.
Well, the first one was kind of a surprise hit, and they threw this one together very quickly using the costumes and props that were left over.
Mm-hmm.
It was rushed.
Yeah, a little bit.
And now that you mentioned it, Godzilla did die at the end of the first movie. That's probably why they didn't call this guy Godzilla.
Yeah.
This is, the other
Another creature.
creature.
Yeah.
Yes. But it's Godzilla.
Yeah.
Well, we get a voiceover about nuclear weapons and space rockets. Are there not darker and more sinister secrets here on Earth? This story is the price of progress to a little nation of people. Credits roll. Always Japan paying the price of progress.
Mm-hmm.
We open on a small village near Osaka, which mostly focuses on fishing. Tsukioka is the pilot of a small airplane that usually scouts the seas for tuna. I had no idea that was a thing.
That is a thing, yeah.
He spots a big catch and radios into the headquarters, which relays his message to the ship. Hidemi is Tsukioka's girlfriend, and she works the radio back at the base. The other pilot, Kobayashi, runs into engine trouble, so he also calls headquarters. Hidemi asks Tsukioka to fly that way to see about recruiting Kobayashi. Now I see why you didn't want to read this one.
Rescuing him, yeah.
Yeah, this is why you
'Cause he
didn't want
went
to
down.
read this one.
It is, yeah, these names, yeah.
Tsukioka finds the man standing on a small deserted island, and Tsukioka lands, but it's too late at night to take off again. So they're going to spend the night on this island.
What could go wrong?
Well, Godzilla.
Yep.
It's not so dark, however, that they can't see Godzilla when he walks past to fight some other giant monster. Two huge beasts fall off a cliff and continue to fight underwater. The two pilots then head home and report what they saw. A brief encounter.
Yeah.
Zoologist Dr. Tadakoro says that the second dinosaur that the men identified, Anguirus, has brains in several parts of his body and is one of a breed of fire monsters. A whole breed of fire monsters. There's no weapon that can kill such a monster. The leader of the group shows a film of the monster that attacked Tokyo just last year. They killed that one with an oxygen bomb, but the inventor died with the bomb, so they can't do that again.
That's unfortunate.
And that did happen in the movie.
It did, yeah. Well, he wanted it to not be abused. He was afraid it would fall into the wrong hands.
And he also thought that was the only monster.
Yeah, well, I guess we could use that bomb again now, but no.
But now there's two monsters. Tsukioka and Hidemi talk about his bravery, or lack thereof, and the world awaits reports on the monster's location, and it comes soon enough.
It's pretty obvious when it pops up. Yeah. Where's the monster? There it is.
The creatures are expected to attack Osaka tomorrow morning. When that doesn't happen, everyone goes out for a night on the town.
Partay.
Then the radio announces that the monster has been spotted at the coastline, and all the defensive units get into position. The city is evacuated as well as it can be.
And here's where I'm going to hop in and say the radio guy. Who was the radio guy? George Takei.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
We recognized, like,
Is
isn't
that
that
George
George
Takei?
Takei? And he does have a very distinctive voice, and it was. Yeah, and you're going to mention that later in the
This is like
commentary.
70-something years ago.
I had
We
to
still
hop in.
recognize his voice.
His first
I think it was
work.
his first, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Tsukioka and Hidemi drive to her father's place in the country. Meanwhile, a busload of convicts escape and run through the night. A couple of cops flag down Tsukioka and Kobayashi and have them follow the escaping criminals. The criminals crash and burn, but they also start a big fire that's large enough to be spotted by Godzilla, who makes a beeline right towards it. Oh, you want to distract Godzilla? Just start a fire.
There you go.
The
It
army
worked.
shoots Godzilla with everything it has, which of course isn't enough. Then the second monster comes ashore. Godzilla and Anguirus soon start fighting, and Osaka pays the price. Many buildings are destroyed and the city burns. The monsters continue to fight until Godzilla kills Anguirus. Morning comes and everyone goes back to the cannery and starts to rebuild from the ruins. The boss tells Kobayashi that he's being reassigned to Hokkaido. He moves and starts over, flying and spotting for tuna in the ocean. Tsukioka and Hidemi arrive in town, and Kobayashi has a surprise for them. Tsukioka gets to meet some old Air Corps buddies. It's a big party.
Party again.
At least it's a good party until the boss comes in and says the fishing boat has been sunk. It must be the monster.
Oops.
Tsukioka goes up in his spotter plane to see if he can find the creature, and he reports at the monster's position, and Kobayashi rushes out to join him. They trade places, and Tsukioka goes back to the base to report. 9 fighter jets arrive at the island, and they all shoot at Godzilla. Kobayashi flies too low, and Godzilla shoots his plane with fire breath. The planes shoot at the mountain instead, and drop an ice slide on the monster's head. Tsukioka wants to join the fighters on the second pass. The bombers start again, shooting at the ice wall behind the monster, but Godzilla manages to shoot down several planes with his monster breath. Eventually, they thoroughly bury the monster under tons and tons of ice.
We'll never see him again.
Never, no.
No, yeah. And in these movies, this is not long after World War II. And I mean,
about 10 years. Yeah.
I mean, clearly, it's not it's not the real world. It's a parallel reality where these monsters exist. But also,
the Japanese
Japan's
military,
huge military after World War II still exists.
Yeah, no,
that wasn't the case after World War II. Unconditional surrender, and they were just shut down as far as military. But it's like World War II never happened in these movies. So it's an alternate.
I'm sure that was the preference from their point of view.
Yeah, it's an alternate timeline.
Yeah.
In that respect too. Yeah, I just thought it was interesting. I noticed this in the first one and this one.
Yeah, there's no Americans in this one, I don't believe.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Well, there might be a token in there. Yeah, token or two, but yeah.
Is this racist if it's all dubbed in English, but everyone has a stereotypical waiter in a generic Asian restaurant kind of accent?
Yeah, that was weird.
Oh yes, we do like some fried rice with that. They all talk like that, but it's an Americans doing the voices.
But it was Americans doing the dubbing, yeah, in English, yeah, because it was filmed in Japanese.
Yeah, they wanted to make it sound like Japanese people do in English, and it wasn't really.
It was, yeah.
Well, Tsukioka was dubbed by Key Luke, a well-known Asian actor, so that's probably okay in his case. But when the actor Paul Frees does it, not so much. He's pretending to be Asian.
Mm-hmm.
George Takei has an uncredited role as various voices, usually over the radio. And we actually picked that up not even knowing he was in this. He was like way, way down in the credits.
But he's there.
And it was his first acting role.
Uh-huh.
Mr. Sulu started out early.
Yeah.
This was the first time Godzilla fought another monster, something that would come up time and time again in many sequels. And, of course, they never used the name Godzilla in this film. Everyone calls him Gigantus. Much of the film is narration told by Tsukioka instead of dialogue spoken by characters on screen. Since they knew it was going to be heavily dubbed, that's probably for the best.
Yeah, one main narrator.
The monster battle was decent, but over with pretty quickly. The rest of the film, with the military fighting Godzilla, just wasn't that interesting. But probably since we've seen it so much better in newer films. It was probably great at the time, but it really doesn't hold up very well today.
Yeah, if you want to be a completionist and see them all, you should. But
we do.
Yeah, we're doing. We're gonna.
I'm not sure that we're excited at this point, but we will.
I'm looking forward to some of them that I remember when I saw long ago, like Godzilla versus the Smog Monster. I remember.
But
that
there's
one
like
being
30
cool.
of them.
But there's a whole lot of them.
Yeah, there's a lot of them we haven't seen.
They're going to be a real mixed bag as far as quality.
Next up, we got Howling V, The Rebirth.
Werewolves.
Or, depending on where you look at it, it's just called The Rebirth or Howling V. It just got numerous releases.
Yeah.
Directed by Neil Sundstrom, written by Gary Brandner, Clive Turner, and Freddie Rowe. Stars Phil Davis, Victoria Caitlin, Elizabeth Shea, and Ben Cole. Hour and 36 minutes. Spoiler-free, it's a werewolf movie.
Yes, it is.
But it has no connection to the previous Howling movies. So you haven't seen 1 through 4, you could start here.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't recommend it because it's awful.
But it's not great.
There are some issues that don't hold up to scrutiny. But past those problems, it's also pretty mediocre.
Yeah.
It is a movie.
Mm-hmm.
It is a Howling movie. The script, acting, effects, and directions aren't awful, but there's nothing here that really stands out.
It's
And
really middling.
very middling, yeah.
Yeah.
They made more after this, so it's certainly not terrible,
They kept going, yeah.
But it's not great.
Yeah.
What happens?
Well, credits roll slowly as we zoom in on a baby's crib. We cut to Budapest in 1489, where we see many dead people at a dinner table. A man comes in and reports everyone is dead, including the baby. They seem upset about, killing a baby and killing everybody, but there was no other way. The evil is finished.
Or was it?
Yeah. And the man then stabs his wife and then himself to complete the set, except the baby is still crying. And he says, as he dies, "We died in vain." And then we cut to Budapest, 1989. So
The present day of 30 years ago.
500 years later, in the present day of 1989. Yeah. We cut to Gail talking to David, a photographer on the street. Jonathan talks to Mary Lou. He's a tennis player. She's an actress. They and various other characters have been invited to Budapest to attend the opening of a castle that's been closed up for 500 years.
So it's like the Love Boat in a castle.
Yeah.
You get these various characters that we have to meet.
It did seem like that, kind of reminiscent of that, that shuffling around where you meet the characters and who's interested in who and, things like that. Well, the Count greets...
they need to bring back the Love Boat so people can understand that reference.
Yeah. The Count greets the most famous guest, Anna the movie star, as Catherine, Ray, Richard, and the professor get on the bus with the others. They drive on as ominous music plays. Their bus hits something on the road, but they don't stop.
Why would you?
Yeah, just keep going. Yeah. Well, the Count explains that the castle was untouched and never ransacked in all this time.
It's been closed for 400 years.
500.
500 years, and
yeah.
they just opened it
just
tonight.
Reopened it. Just broke the seal. Well, Peter and Susan are the servants, but they don't understand English. They've been there ahead of these folks getting the dust off, I guess, and, getting things set up. Well, the professor thinks the castle does have a past, but someone has gone to great efforts to cover it up.
Ooh, a mystery.
Yeah. Well, there was that slaughter and the surviving baby, so yeah. Richard talks about how Satan created werewolves right here in this region, and they were all killed off. No, they weren't. But people are still suspicious and superstitious about it. Maybe those two ideas are somehow interconnected.
No.
Yeah. Catherine and Anna are charmed and repulsed by Australian Ray. The professor goes off exploring and finds a skull. A door gets locked behind him, and soon he finds out he's not alone. There's some big toothy animal in there with him.
Could it be a dog?
No.
What's the name of this movie again?
The Howling. Well, back at the dinner table, the whole group talks. The Count tells the story of the execution of 3 generations of a family back 500 years ago. It was forbidden by law to even discuss the story. The Count gets upset when he hears the professor has gone missing. He comes back shortly after and reports that the professor has left the building, and there's a snowstorm outside. Nothing to worry about. He just left. Everything's fine.
Don't go looking for him. It's cold out there.
Yeah. Well, dinner breaks up and everyone goes off to do their own thing, except they can't leave now because of the storm. Richard and Catherine get together. They're having an affair, cheating on his wife, who wasn't invited. Gail talks to Ray about whatever the bus hit, the weather, and that something's in the castle that they don't know about. She thinks someone did something to the professor, and Ray thinks that's all ridiculous. Jonathan and Mary Lou find a hot spring in the building and get naked, and he notices they have similar marks on their arm. What does that mean? Well, Ray finds a secret passage and gets trapped inside. He peeks through a crack and watches as Gail returns and is killed by a monster. Then he falls into a pit and passes out. He wakes up, finds the professor's body, then opens a door outside where something gets him.
One damn thing after another.
Yeah, the bodies are piling up. David and Jonathan talk about cameras. Peter the servant comes in and takes the film out of the camera. Mary Lou and Anna talk about David and Jonathan and sex. The Count comes in, looking for Gail and Ray. He enlists David and Jonathan to break down the door and search Gail's room. Well, the Count looks around, finds the secret door that Ray found earlier. So the three explore and find Ray's modern wristwatch, but no Ray. Well, they go back upstairs and enlist the help of the others. So, as often happens in movies like this, the group splits up. What could go wrong? They go searching the tunnels. Jonathan is chased by a werewolf who knows the passages better than he does. Anna gets scared and shoots at something in the shadows. Richard and Catherine argue a lot, but someone severely injures Peter. Mary Lou reports seeing a huge animal, and they all go upstairs and discuss what happened, what they saw. Well, Mary Lou says she feels sick. The Count has a wounded ankle, and Peter has a head injury. They still can't leave. They're trapped because of the snowstorm. Well, Richard and Anna flirt and talk about Mary Lou. All three of them are orphans who can't trace their own ancestry. They also have those matching birthmarks on their arms. They all seem to. They aren't there by chance. This whole trip is a setup. They have figured this out. And suddenly a werewolf breaks in. Because why not? Well, David and Catherine go back down to the dungeons. She thinks the Count is up to something.
He's the Count. Of course he is.
He is, yeah. Well, maybe the butler did it, too.
Oh, yeah.
That's always a trope. Yeah. Well, they go back to where Anna shot the thing. It's Jonathan that she shot, but his throat has been torn out. Well, she didn't shoot Jonathan. He's there, and his throat's been torn out. Well, they get lost on the way back. They find Gail, who isn't quite dead. It's a werewolf, she moans, and then dies. They go upstairs, find Mary Lou sleeping, but Richard and Anna are missing. So it's a little bit of a whodunit, sort of. Who's the werewolf? One of these people probably is the werewolf.
My bet's on the Count.
Yeah. Well, the Count walks in. The werewolf, the prophecy is fulfilled, he says. He explains that they all have that hereditary birthmark that leads directly back to that night in 1489. They're all part of the same bloodline, but only one of them is a werewolf. David thinks the Count is the killer. So David locks the Count, Peter, and Susan in one of the cells. And there's a lot of unnecessary discussion between David, Anna, and Catherine. Anna returns, lets the Count and the servants out. Catherine finds that Mary Lou has gone. Well, the Count thinks David is the werewolf. They lock her in the cage and leave the key for her own safety. So she's, locked in a cage away from whoever the werewolf is. Well, the werewolf reaches through the bars and kills her anyway. Catherine finds the body, and it gets Catherine as well. So the suspects are narrowing down fast. The Count is hunting David. Peter decapitates Susan, and Mary Lou shoots Peter. This only leaves Mary Lou and David versus the Count. And we get lots of shots of the three of them wandering around looking for each other. Peter runs in, and Mary Lou shoots the Count. He is no longer a suspect. Well, Peter denies that he's a werewolf, but the moon comes out, and Mary Lou smiles into the camera. And we know who the werewolf was.
Okay.
Except there's issues with that, as you may go into the commentary here.
Well, the credits say it's based on the first three Howling books, but it's not really. It has no real connection to the previous films in the series in any way. It's just a werewolf film that has the name stuck on it. Well, the supposedly untouched castle is full of anachronisms and things that would have decomposed in the past 500 years.
It looks really good shape.
Yeah, it does. There's curtains and wood and all kinds of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
The castle sets look creepy and mostly realistic, but the cast is large and everyone looks unique enough to tell apart. It was supposed to be a kind of a guess who the werewolf is sort of mystery, but it's so badly scripted that there's just no way of telling. Did you know it was Mary Lou? Until the very end?
There was really no way of telling.
Yeah.
Because you could try to, okay, they're all, here, most of them are in the dining room, but then the werewolf attacks, and then, it's just not, you can't follow it as a whodunit.
Yeah.
Who is it? Yeah.
We get a tight close-up of a werewolf's face in one scene, but we never get a transformation scene or a full-body shot. Low budget.
Mm-hmm.
We don't really know how Mary Lou could change back and forth into a werewolf at will multiple times in a night without tearing her clothes up, but it happened.
Yeah. Somehow she
was fully dressed, then a werewolf, and fully dressed again.
She would take her clothes off quick, change, kill somebody, run back to her clothes, change.
Nobody ever found those clothes?
Lick the blood off, I guess.
Yeah.
And get dressed again, and then blend in again.
Did you have additional issues?
No, that was the main issue.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, just her how did she do that? You know?
Horror movies have a trope of that. You know, the
Yeah.
killer is always right where he needs to be at the time.
Often, yeah.
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 All right, so we got a short film this week, one called Ancient Voice from 2021 from Turkey.
Creepy little piece of work.
Directed by Kan Sagir, written by Kan Sagir and Erdeniz Tunç. I'm sure I'm saying those wrong. Stars Semet Kiziltas and Bernatoy. 5 minutes, 27 seconds. So it's a shorty.
And you can watch it on YouTube.
You can.
Yeah.
What happens?
Well, a woman writes a note. She writes that she's gotten over the shock, but still feels like something's breathing on her neck. I'm sure it's totally not.
No.
It's just her imagination. Well, we flash back to what happened. The same woman and Effie, a friend, went to a house that was said to be haunted. He goes in first, and they communicate with their phones, and then we see he's not alone in the building.
Yeah, he goes in and she's outside on the phone, and I'm like, why is she taking a call right now?
No, they're texting.
Yeah, but in other movies, they'd be using like a radio or something. These guys are using phone. I mean, of course they are.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, the opening text says that it's inspired by Turkish legends. Well, that sounds cool.
Mm-hmm.
Well, basically, there's a monster in a building. So I'm pretty sure everyone has legends like that.
Some kind of supernatural
Yeah,
creature.
there's nothing specific going on here. If there's anything specific to Turkey, they left that out of the subtitles. And this is subtitled, but there's not much. It's so short. If you don't like subtitles, watch it anyway. It's pretty minor.
Yeah, I thought it was a good one.
It looks good, and the music is excellent. There's not much story here, but we get enough to know what's going on. The creature, what we see of it anyway, looks good. The budget here is obviously very low, but the filmmakers did good things with what they had, and it's very promising for the director's future efforts.
Yeah, I hope they make more.
Yeah.
And then we come to Puppet Master 4, The Demon, 1993, which was directed by Jeff Burr, written by Todd Henschel, Stephen E. Carr, and Joe Duffy. And it stars Gordon Curry, Chandra West, Ash Abrams, and Teresa Hill. Runtime pretty short on an hour and 19 minutes. And trailer in the show note. That's a link to the trailer on YouTube. Spoiler free. It was kind of a soft reboot. It took a lot of elements from the first three movies, but it didn't really continue on from number 3. So it's kind of interesting how they did it.
There's a new puppet master in town.
There is.
But the same old puppets
yet-
from previously
And
are
yet,
there.
and yet the same puppet master is referenced too. So
It's a toss hand what are you passing the torch kind of thing.
yeah, a soft reboot. Yeah.
Yeah.
They bring in demonic elements to liven things up and new young people. The puppetry is a little better than the previous efforts. Plus, it's short and gets right to it without a lot of filler. And overall, we were entertained.
Yeah, I know the Puppet Masters got kind of awful, as you know, when they get to like episode 30 or whatever.
This one was not awful.
Overall, I like the concept, and the characters are interesting in all of them. But yeah, the stories of it as sequelitis, you know.
Yeah, it does. But it was worthy.
Sutek, the leader of the underworld, declares that the secret that André Toulon stole many years ago is about to be rediscovered. We must send our children to protect it. The power is ours, and ours alone. It must remain.
It must.
Well, we cut to a car arriving at Biotech Industries at night in the rain.
So they threw in some sci-fi with this one.
Well, yeah.
A little more than the others.
Stanley, the security guard, takes a package from the stranger and carries it up to Dr. Piper. She talks to Dr. Baker about the success of their latest robotics project. They're both waiting for Rick, the boy genius of the company. Piper opens the box, and inside is the ugly doll that looks like a demonic skeleton. The power goes off, and the little doll kills her. Down in the underworld, Sutek and his cultists absorb her power, as does the demon doll. We got demon puppets.
Demon powers.
Meanwhile, at the hotel on the cliff that we've seen before, the Bodega Bay Inn, Rick answers the phone. He has the Blade doll from the previous film sitting on the shelf right next to him. He's built a pair of small robots, which he plays he plays laser tag with them. They don't work very well, so he shuts them off. They have no original thought or simulated life, which was his goal. They're dumb little robot toys.
Yeah, they're pretty cool.
He was hoping for more.
They're still pretty cool, but yeah, they're definitely not alive or not sentient, which is what he wanted.
Dr. Baker, back at the lab, gets a package delivery. It's that same doll that Piper had. He calls Rick, who denies having sent it. And he ends up just like Dr. Piper.
Dead.
Yeah.
D-E-D, dead.
Susie, Lauren, and Ash ring the bell, and Rick lets them all inside. They have dinner together as someone small watches. Blade looks out the window and sees Andre Toulon outside. Susie finds Blade, and Rick tells her that it's a mechanical doll that he found in the room when he moved in as caretaker. He thinks it's mechanical.
Mm-hmm.
Lauren finds something and faints. It's a locked box, and she says not to open it. She's a channeler, a kind of psychic. They spend a lot of time trying to get the box open, after she said not to.
The box that they said, don't open. And so, let's open it.
And inside are several more of Toulon's puppets and notebooks. They soon figure out Toulon's story and the rough plot of the third film. They find Pinhead, Tunneler, Six-Shooter, and they already had Blade. Susie then finds the secret formula. Mark injects several of the toys with the serum. And they do in fact wake up, much to Cameron's surprise. Rick thinks Toulon may have the solution to the Omega Project that he's been working on. Meanwhile, Sutek says everyone there must die. They wake up Jester, the little twisty-face guy, next.
Mm-hmm.
The power goes off, so Cameron and Lauren decide to go to bed.
What? Wait, that's the point in the movie where I said, wait, what?
They've got these magical dolls that they've just learned how to reawaken from nothing.
This is the most incredible thing ever. Oh, let's go to bed.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, that's not exciting or interesting at all.
Yeah.
Wow.
Uh-huh.
Okay, well, they fret and fume over Cam getting shafted by Rick, who doesn't deserve his success. Cam wants Lauren to channel Toulon so that they can have a conversation. Rick hooks up his laser tag weapons to Tunneler and Pinhead, and they have a play shootout. They're all playing, having a good time. These are friendly toys.
Yeah, and you can clearly, he's very pleased. You can see that they do seem to be alive and sentient.
Yeah.
Which is what he wanted.
The doorbell rings, and someone has delivered a small wooden box.
Uh-oh.
Lauren tries to contact Toulon, and the table splits open, releasing several of those demon dolls.
Uh-oh.
Cam and Lauren don't explain anything, but leave immediately. Rick laughs about evil spirits. Meanwhile, outside in the car, the demons kill Cameron. Inside, the Toulon dolls know what's going on and see one of the demons. Rick and Susie find the delivered box, but the doll inside has escaped. Lauren runs back inside, and Rick goes out to find Cameron's corpse. He also sees one of the demon dolls. Demon and Pinhead hold down one of them, while Tunneler runs him through.
Blade and Pinhead hold him down.
What'd I say?
Demon.
Oh, okay. Blade and Pinhead are holding him down, yes.
Teamwork.
Down in the underworld, one of the red-eyed creatures withers and dies.
Aha, they're linked.
They're like cultist-looking people down there.
So the puppets are like the avatars of these demons down there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The puppets hear Toulon's voice. Decapitron, his time has come. Well, that sounds cool.
Yeah.
Well, the dolls pull out another box that Rick and the others hadn't seen before. Inside is a whole new puppet, the Decapitron, which they animate with lightning while simultaneously electrocuting another of the demons. Why didn't they just inject him with juice?
Because this one is electrically powered, I guess.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, the Decapitron's head turns into Toulon, who explains about Sutek, who wants to kill him. Toulon tells Rick that he's very close to discovering the secret of life. Meanwhile, Susie pours acid on another demon.
The demons are whittling down.
Mark starts up the generator, and he and Susie work to get the Decapitron to finally wake up. As it does, all the other puppets clap. Yay!
Yay!
The Decapitron then removes his head.
Because he's the Decapitron.
Named for it, yes.
His head is removable and interchangeable.
A demon opens the door and comes in. The Decapitron puts on a different head, and this one is heavily armed. He shoots lightning at the little demon doll, eventually blowing the thing apart. The Decapitron then puts his humanoid head back on. Down in the underworld, Sutek roars in defeat. He's all out of demons.
Aha.
Toulon appears again and passes the torch to Rick, whom he calls the Puppet Master.
There's a new sheriff in town.
Yeah, seems like there's going to be a sequel, too.
Yeah.
It incorporates many things from the previous films, but doesn't really continue the story of Part 3. Was Part 3 the one with the Nazis?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, yeah. It sort of started out in modern times, and then the third one way back.
Yeah.
It's a whole new rebirth for the dolls. The stop motion in this one is pretty good. It's still stop motion rather than CGI, but they're clearly getting better at it.
Thought it was smoother.
They animate a bunch of little puppets, but the most miraculous thing ever, and half the group decides to go to bed?
Yeah, I guess.
All right. Well, the acting is fine. The animation is good. The story itself isn't all that innovative, but it does continue the fan-favorite franchise. Overall, I liked it.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, should watch more of those.
Yeah.
But first, Freddy vs. Jason, 2003. And I'll tell you, we haven't seen Jason X yet, Jason 10. I thought this one came first. It didn't, though.
No, not necessarily.
Yeah, I thought this was the last of the original series, but no.
No?
So we're doing these a little out of order here.
That's okay.
Not that it matters.
Yeah, it doesn't matter too much.
Directed by Ronnie Yu.
This one's kind of out of the... I consider this one kind of out
kind of
of
an
the,
extra.
Yeah.
Aliens versus Predator kind of thing.
Yeah.
Written by Wes Craven, Victor Millen, and Damian Shannon. Stars Robert Englund, Ken Kersinger, Monica Keena, Jason Ritter. Hour and 37 minutes. Kind of long there. Spoiler free. For years, we've debated matchup battles between various horror movie icons, and here at last we had one. What happens when an irresistible force meets an immovable object? Yeah, I saw a Reddit post the other day. What if Godzilla fought Paul Bunyan?
Well, there's a crossover we need.
People come up with the weirdest stuff.
That's a weird combination.
Okay, kind of a draw, I guess. The plot almost had a fairy tale quality of unreality to it, but it's a fun movie that's worth a watch if you're a fan of Freddy and or Jason.
It was fun seeing them together.
Jason doesn't have a lot of witty dialogue, though.
No, he doesn't.
What happens?
Well, we open on a flashback to Freddy Krueger as a human killing children. And he narrates, my reign of terror was legendary. Dozens of children would fall to my blade. Then the parents of Springwood came for me, taking justice into their own hands. And he says he got a lot worse after they killed him. And we get flashbacks to earlier Nightmare on Elm Street films. But now they've shut down him pretty much, and there's no one left to dream about Freddy. So
everybody who knew Freddy is dead.
Yeah, so he's lost his power. Well, he searched the bowels of hell for someone to use and inspire enough fear to be his ticket home.
I don't know. We got anybody in hell that's scary? Let's look around. Hey, how
Well,
about that hockey mask dude?
Yeah, remember that Jason Went to Hell movie? Well,
He's right there waiting to be picked.
we cut to Jason having a Friday the 13th dream. His mother instructs him, go to Elm Street, where the children have been naughty. Well, Jason comes back to life in the real world.
We don't know how.
Yeah, well, because he's Jason and he's, immortal. And he stomps through the woods. Well, we watch Jason's mother morph into Freddy. He's going to use Jason to get them scared again. And credits roll. Well, on Elm Street, 3 girls are having a get-together and 2 guys show up. It's Laurie's house. She's not happy to see them, especially that loser Blake. Jason is standing outside in the rain. She misses Will, who moved away unexpectedly.
Teen drama.
Yeah. Well, Jason kills Trey. Pretty much twice. I mean, he really kills him. Everyone screams and runs outside in the rain until the police stop by. The police and the sheriff and deputy, notice, it's the same damn house. It's got to be Freddy Krueger. But the sheriff wants it kept quiet, hushes him. Deputy Stubbs wants to help Laurie, but he's off the case. And Laurie's dad is surprisingly creepy. Well, the name Freddy somehow pops into Laurie's mind. She heard the cop say it. And she gets a vision of the whole Freddy, that
1,
children's
2,
rhyme.
Freddy's coming for you.
Yeah. So he's coming back. Blake also heard the name Freddy, and he's attacked by the man himself in his dream, but Freddy's not strong enough yet to actually hurt him. So Freddy says, I'll let Jason have some more fun. Well, Jason then kills Blake and his father in the real world. We cut to Will, the previously mentioned missing boyfriend. He's in a mental hospital. He sees a news report about someone getting killed in Laurie's house. And with some help from Mark, another prisoner, they escape. Lisa insists on going to school the next day, and she hears about Blake's death. Kia and Gib want Lisa to go to the party tonight, and she tells them about her nightmares. Mark from the institution is there, and he tells the whole group about Freddy's history. Well, Will shows up, and Lisa faints. So now they're all getting, Freddy on their mind again. All these kids. Yeah, this is not good. Will and Mark wonder why, since they all know about Freddy, they haven't been targeted. And neither of them ever remembers their dreams anymore.
I don't have dreams, I don't think.
Yeah. Well, we cut to a rave in a cornfield, where all the teens are drinking and dancing. Will meets up with Laurie there and tells her that he's been institutionalized. He didn't move away without telling her.
In horror movies, it seems like it's a whole lot easier to escape from mental hospitals than it is in real life.
And especially in this town. Yeah. Yeah, they just decided, yeah. Well, spoiler, that's how they shut down Freddy, basically. They took all the kids that were dreaming about Freddy and institutionalized them. You just take all these young people and lock them up. Okay, problem solved. Yeah, it's not too realistic, like you said. Well, we also see that Jason is in the cornfield. Still real world Jason. Well, Gibbs sees Trey out there, but it's really Freddy luring her to Jason. And just as Freddy's about to kill her in her dream, Jason kills her in real life, which deprives Freddy of the power. And he doesn't like that one bit.
Hey, don't kill him before I do.
Yeah, that was mine. Well, Jason soon walks into the middle of the party, and it's pandemonium. And as he kills a few people, causes a mass stampede. Kia asks Laurie if that was the guy in her dream, but it's not. This is someone else. Well, Will tells Laurie that he saw her father kill her mother. Her father shows up, and Will says he's the one who had him committed. Laurie confronts her father over her mother's death, and he's evasive. They argue. She ends up climbing out a window and running away back to Will. Well, meanwhile, the other escaped guy, Mark, has nodded off and runs into Freddy, who uses him to send a message to the others. Deputy Stubbs, meanwhile, is compiling reports of a hockey-masked killer in town. But the sheriff says they've stopped him before, thinking it's the other famous killer, the F word, Freddy. Will realizes that it's their fear that feeds Freddy. Deputy Stubbs walks in on the group. He knows about Jason Voorhees. Will wonders if Freddy is using Jason to spread the fear. Now Freddy can't shut him down. And Will mentions that the Hypnosil drug they took in the hospital kept their dreams suppressed.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's why they don't have dreams.
So lock up all these kids, give them Hypnosil, problem solved. Except you just locked up all the kids in town, half the kids in town, without explanation or just cause or anything. So, yeah. Well, the group breaks into the mental hospital to get more of the Hypnosil so they can stop dreaming about Freddy. Well, one of them stops to smoke a joint, runs into a caterpillar-shaped version of Freddy, like from Alice in Wonderland, who leads him down into the coma patient ward, who all sit up and tell him to flush the Hypnosil down the drain. Well, when he refuses, Freddy possesses him and does it himself through his body.
Now I'm picturing the comma ward, where the people with a bad punctuation
Bad punctuation. They're locked up in this ward, yeah. Well, meanwhile, Linderman and Stubbs get attacked by Jason, and Stubbs dies. Freddy, in Freeburg's body, waits to fight with Jason. He injects Jason with some lethal drugs, and Jason cuts him in half before falling down. Well, Jason wakes up in Freddy's dreamland, being chewed out by his very angry mother. Jason wastes no time cutting off Freddy's arms. He's not fooled this time. He knows it's not Mom, it's Freddy. Well, except his arms grow right back because it's Freddy in his dream. And now they fight for real, sort of, in the dream. Freddy plays pinball with Jason, beating him excessively, except Jason just stands up. And then Freddy learns that Jason is afraid of water. Well, he turns back into a scared, ugly little boy when he's doused with water. So Freddy's got the upper hand in the dream. He can do anything in there. Well, meanwhile, Will, Kia, Linderman, and Laurie tie up Jason and drive away with his unconscious body. They're going to go to Crystal Lake and take care of him, put him in the lake. Laurie thinks she can go to sleep and bring Freddy back into the corporeal world when she returns. Because that's been a trick done in the Nightmare on Elm Street
bring him
movies
back to the
before.
real world.
Yeah. Well, Freddy goes deep inside Jason's mind to see his dreams. And Laurie does fall asleep, dreams about ugly little Jason at Camp Crystal Lake. And it's like being in a Friday the 13th episode, but not quite. It's all skewed because it's all dreamy. Doesn't quite play out like we remember. So she does manage to grab Freddy, but she can't wake up. Meanwhile, Will carries Laurie's unconscious body into Camp Crystal Lake. While Laurie battles Freddy in the dream, Jason fights her friends in the real world. Laurie's hand gets burned, which wakes her up enough to bring Freddy back, face to face with real-world Jason, who is, of course, completely unstoppable. Except Freddy's way more creative and smart, but he's unstoppable. So here we have this problem of
Unstoppable means unstoppable.
two unstoppable people battling. Yeah. Well, Kia confronts Freddy, compares him to Jason, who's right behind her. Laurie comes to the conclusion that Freddy killed her mother, and her father was trying to hide that from her. Well, Freddy and Jason are just battling. Fight goes out to the dock, where Jason slices and dices Freddy. Laurie sets the dock on fire as the two monsters kind of start ripping each other apart. Everything explodes, but of course Will and Laurie are fine. Freddy approaches, using Jason's machete, but then Jason stabs Freddy with his own glove. So it's all over now, right?
Right.
Yeah. In the morning, we see Jason rise up out of the lake with Freddy's severed head in hand. However, Freddy gives us a wink on the way out.
So, inconclusive.
Inconclusive. And neither of them are dead.
I don't think just some random doctor could get two neighborhood kids committed to an asylum on his word alone.
A whole bunch of kids.
Yeah.
Yeah. And not only that, the coma patients were kids that eventually this hypnosil causes some of them to go comatose. And so, you got dozens, it looked like dozens of kids, and the parents are all just going to be okay. Like, okay, yeah, you can have our teenager and drug them until they go into a coma.
Yeah, I suspect either the boy's parents or the court system would be involved.
You'd think so.
Either way, they wouldn't just suddenly go missing overnight.
Uh-huh.
Most of the actual story here is pretty contrived stuff leading up to the big fight at the end. We also recently watched Superman 2 from 1981.
Uh-huh.
We both commented during that film that Superman vs. Zod was basically two unstoppable forces, so the actual fights were kind of boring, at least compared to more modern superhero films.
Mm-hmm.
This one was kind of similar in the way it works out.
Well, I thought it was more entertaining than
Well,
that.
Superman and Zod were kind of identical. Mm-hmm. Super strong, flying, laser vision, all that good stuff.
Here they're different enough to make it interesting.
Yeah, the two supervillains here have different powers, so that made it good. It was not great, but it was fun. It was all right.
This was actually my fourth time seeing it, and I'm still not tired of it.
I think I've seen it twice now. That was my second time.
I like it quite a bit.
Yeah. Okay, then over at horrorbulletin.com, you can read our review of Hostel Part 3. We did Hostel Part 1 and 2 in the last couple of weeks.
This one takes place in Vegas. So they've got a franchise in Vegas, and there's more betting involved in this time around.
It's okay. It's not as good as the first two.
No, I didn't think so.
And also Onibaba from 1964. Low-key horror, more of a, the two women living out in the tall grass.
Mm-hmm.
And some men get involved.
There's samurai stuff and killing each other and
Could there be a demon involved?
There could be.
There could be.
It could be.
All right, well, stop on over at horrorguys.com and read the full reviews with all the spoilers on there of all these. If you want to sign up for the email list, check out horrorbulletin.com. If you want to take a look at our fantastic selection of horror books, go to horrorguysshop.com.
Where fine books are sold.
They're great.
Uh-huh.
I know, I wrote them myself.
Yes.
All right, I'm Brian.
And I'm Kevin.
We'll see you next week.
See ya.